This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
A warm welcome to all our viewers. We're currently live here at Ambiyond Ngala, and we are looking at a group of elephant bulls that have just come out of the water onto the bank of this waterhole and now slowly starting to feed just along the edges here. You can see the two that are together there. I'd like to encourage everyone to come and join us on this live safari here in the African bush. So as you'll notice with these two elephants, look at the difference in the color. You'll notice the one is a bit darker in color than the other one, and that's the one that's been swimming and has moved out. And at this stage, it was completely submerged in the water. So I'm Nikki, going to be your ranger for this afternoon, and with me on the camera is Gert. Now, just to give you an idea of our game plan for this afternoon is, so we decided to come down towards the water because it's nice and warm. There's a good chance that some of the animals would have come down to drink, but as well as the elephants, they would have come down to drink and also cool themselves down because it is a nice warm day. And so some of them have only ventured off a couple of meters into the water and has like had a good drink and moved out. And of course, an elephant, have a look at the size of this bull, will probably need to eat a lot of food in a day. So their main mission, other than if there's a female, of course, in estrus and following the herd, whenever they do move, it's for water, food, and then as soon as they start moving on again, they'll eventually, that whole cycle will start again, and they'll head back to the water and just feed as they carry on. But that elephant bull that size will probably need to eat a lot of food in order to sustain that big body.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon to you at Djuma Private Game Reserve in Sabi Sands. It's a beautiful day today. Nothing much of a warm. And my name's Andrew. Behind the camera is Theo. And yeah, let's have a look at the owl that we just found right now in that tree. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful day for us. What we got there, it's called pale spotted owlet. Pale spotted owlet, as you can see. It's a little owlet we found in this area. But it will surprise you in that so small size. Can able to bring bird down, such as a dove. Dove could be bigger than this owl in weight, but also they feed on a lizard because they hunt during the day mainly, also at night they do that, but I don't have a problem moving around during the day.
Jumbo, jumbo, jumbo. A very good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Masai Mara. And here I have the tall one of my favorite animals. My name is Isaac, and on camera I have Big James. Welcome to Masai Mara. Already we are set out here to show you what we have found. I'm very interested in telling you a lot about the giraffe, which we find here in this Masai Mara. It's the only one that is found here. It is the Masai giraffe. And ambling there is a nice big male, fully grown, heading out into the open plains. His tail raised like that means he's gonna go to the bathroom, as you can see. Yeah, unlike buffalo, elephant, hippo, rhino, they go to the bathroom in pallets. Everything they eat is properly utilized, so it comes out in pellets, very small, little droplets. Yeah, the one we find here, as you can see, is called the Maasai giraffe, or Africa's tallest mammal, and it is one of the animals facing extinction. It is estimated at the moment we have just over 100,000 of them. And here in the Mara, I don't think we have more than 300. So it's an animal that has been declared endangered. And so it has to be conserved and protected. Usually, they browse down here in the bushes and then head out into the open place. Every day it's a norm here in the Masai Mara. There is more coming to the left, so I'm gonna wait for them to come. Then, yeah, see if there's anything interesting about them.
Good afternoon, everyone, and a big welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve. We are live sitting here with the Pungwe pack of wild dogs. And believe it or not, you might not be able to see it, but there's 11 puppies in front of us. 11 puppies. Can you believe that? Used to be 13 and sadly now there's only 11. But my name is Lauren and I do have BK on camera today. All the adults are scattered around, but this is a collection of a puddle of puppies. There you go. A puddle of puppies. Now they're flat. Wild dogs are generally crepuscular, and that means that they're most active in the morning with the sunrise and in the evening with the sunset. So they're lying flat in the shade, trying to avoid the sun. It's quite a toasty afternoon after being an overcast morning, 24 degrees Celsius and 76 degrees Fahrenheit. So I imagine not too far off, maybe in an hour or so, once the sun starts to set, these puppies are going to get incredibly active. Now, really, it just looks like we're looking at logs and branches, but I promise you we're not. They are just very, very sleepy right now. And the Pungwe pack is quite new to us here at Wild Earth. And as I mentioned, they started off with 13 pups. And sadly, they lost one to a lioness from the Talamati Pride. And we're not completely sure what happened to the other one. But 11 is still a fantastic number, as the African wild dogs are incredibly endangered. Isaac was just talking about giraffes that are classified as vulnerable by the IUCN, and wild dogs are classified as endangered. Their populations are very low, but I do believe they're on the rise. From many breeding efforts and conservation efforts, the wild dog populations across Africa are now increasing.
How beautiful is the silhouette of this elephant? This one was maneuvering its way around the bank in the water, and it looked like he found a lovely patch of grass to feed on. Look at the size even of his tusks. You have quite a long, straight tusk, this bull. And it doesn't look like it's an old bull, so you just never know. It might turn out to be one of those big ones. But what always fascinates me is how an elephant is capable of moving up quite a steep slope. Even look already at the angle at which he's standing now. And he'll probably have to maneuver those back feet underneath as a bit of support, and then almost like pull himself up with his front feet. But Rosalind, with an elephant bull, they can weigh anything roughly, depending on the size. So this one here that I'm looking at is probably around nearly 5 tons, but they can go all the way up to 11 tons. See how that one is moving up? I mean, that's quite heavy for an animal. Now, considering it, if we had to compare that against any other vehicle, probably equal to 4.5 times the vehicle size and weight.
Back with our pale spotted owlet. When I take a time and examine this bird, it looks like it's trying to move once more since we're here. It seems to be, it's got something stuck in one of its talons, or it's got a kill that we cannot see what it is right now. We didn't want to move too much because then they're very flighty. They might actually just vanish for us and not to have a sight again. But if it's the kill, then it makes sense, because this owl hunts day and a night.
Here we have a multi-species association of eland and toppies. Remember, these two species migrate to the Serengeti. Of course, they are not as many as the wildebeest and the zebra. The eland is the farthest one, very big. It's a grazer and a browser, and very, very shy. It's almost impossible to get close to them. It is hard to believe that it is one of the highest jumping antelopes in Africa, and also toppy is one of the fastest, catching top speeds of up to 70 kilometers an hour. Very good eyesight, hearing and smell, and they are rarely hunted by most predators because they can outrun or see them before they get caught. Also, they have this behavior where they stand on top of mounds, acting that like the sole proclaimed watchmen, and so they alert everybody else. Here it seems to be very tranquil. There's no issues. Everybody is scattered around, so there's no predator, and everybody is at peace. Also, we have a few bull buffaloes. These are, we call them Bachala boys or the Dagger boys, and they're also grazing away, heading to the bushes. I'm still waiting for my giraffe because there are so many down there. I'm hoping they're going to catch up with me soon.
Good afternoon and welcome to And Beyond, Phinda Private Game Reserve. As you can see behind me, we have some beautiful giraffe of our own here, just like you were watching back in the Masai Mara. My name is Kim, and behind the camera is Craig, and we will be with you for this afternoon. Now, I don't know if you were watching a little bit closer at these giraffe, but they're slightly different to the ones you were seeing. These are in fact southern giraffe that we have here at Phinda, and their numbers are actually all right. They're not quite endangered, so we're lucky to have them in good numbers here. What we were planning to do today is we were actually on the hunt for some cheetah. I don't know if you were watching earlier with Deervault, and we were lucky enough to find a cheetah this morning, but she was a bit nervous and on the move, so we were busy tracking her down, and then we came across these beautiful giraffe. As you can see, they are just slowly feeding. Nothing's bothering them too much. Rosalind's just asked us a very interesting question, asking how many giraffe there are left in the world. And Rosalind, that's a very, very good question. They've just recently discovered that there are those 4 different species that I think you were discussing earlier, and that some of them are in fact, very endangered, having, just a few thousand left of their species. And others aren't so endangered. The exact total, I'm not entirely sure, but I think for the vast majority, southern giraffe that we are looking here today, they've got plenty. Sophie's now commenting on what a gorgeous giraffe that we are looking at. And in fact, if you have a closer look, it is in fact a beautiful, beautiful specimen. In fact, if you have a look at her general features, she doesn't have many scars or any kind of cysts or anything on her body. And also, if you look at the height, if you compare her height to the other giraffe in the area, she's actually quite short. So she's quite a young giraffe. She hasn't had many battle scars. And when you are trying to age animals, that's one of the things that we tend to look at. Scarring, damage around the ears, just general wearing of the skin and sagging of the skin is often the best indicator. And you can have a look here. Her belly is very taut. She's got very little scarring. And you're very right, Sophie. She is absolutely beautiful. Now, the reason I'm saying a she is that if you look at the top of the horns, there's actually a little bit of a paintbrush tip. The males have quite a bit larger horns, and they've got a flat sort of bristle top. And this giraffe here, you can see she's got that beautiful little paintbrush. In fact, she's got a nice little feature. If you have a look at her horns, how the one actually is slightly longer, and actually this one slightly kind of curves in a little bit. All right, so these giraffe, like I said, they're just feeding. They seem quite relaxed. I don't think they've seen any signs of that cheetah anytime soon, otherwise they would be staring off into the distance. So what we are going to do is we're going to let them carry on feeding, and we are going to carry on looking for any signs of that cheetah.
Jumbo Jumbo and hello everybody. Welcome to the Mara Triangle, and I'm just by the Mara River with some hippos in the background there. And I think giraffes should take the advantage of the height to spot the would-be predator like a cheetah, as much as I do not think a cheetah should be of any concern to a giraffe, and especially a fully grown giraffe. Well, we have seen cheetahs in the Masai Mara, the coalition of male cheetahs going for baby giraffes. A very good afternoon, everybody. My name is David, and on camera with me this afternoon is Bungay. Well, we got loads of hippos for you out there on the banks of the Mara River, and they've been basking for the better part of the day. The number was much bigger, but I think the temperatures might have dropped a little down, and some have gone back in the water. And I don't want to believe, because the temperatures have gone down, others have gone in the thicket to start grazing. As you can see, some there. They'll always try and graze very close to the river, though not always. That's a very good question. How often do we see a rhino and a hippos fighting? I'll tell you for once. Once in a while we see some herbivores together, and I'm talking of, say, hippos, zebras, stoppies, wildebeest, elephants, and buffaloes. Of all my very many years here in the African wilderness, I have never seen a hippo and a rhino even in a radius of 1 kilometer. Neither have I seen a friend of mine or a colleague telling me he saw a hippo fighting. The hippos, or the fights that we see rather, will be between, for example, hippos and hyenas, hippos and lions, and hippos once in a while with the crocs. Now, rhinos, like the rhinos we have in the Masai Mara, are the black rhinos, and they're browsers. The hippos are grazers, so they may not have a commonality in their feeding ground. So they rarely come in touch, they rarely meet, and they're always in different territories at a given time. The black rhinos rather, will be drinking from puddles of water that collect in the forest, unlike the hippos that will be drinking like where we are. That's a good example of a croc that could have an issue with a hippo, but a baby hippo, not a fully grown hippo. I want to spend a few more minutes here and see whether we'll get more hippos coming out of the water, or maybe a herbivore may choose to cross this river.
My beautiful mottled logs are still... I've got a little bit of movement. They're not logs. These puppies are so much bigger than when I originally first saw them, but they still look like puppies, miniature versions of the adults. And within the Pungwe pack, the Pungwe pack, a puddle of puppies from the Pungwe pack. Try saying that fast 10 times. A puddle of puppies from the Pungwe pack. But the alpha female is collared, so it makes this pack really, really easy to recognize, and the fact that they have so many puppies. Now, wild dogs hunt every single day, and generally they require more meat relative to their size than lions do. So they say about 80% of their diet consists of impala alone. Now, that doesn't mean they won't go for other species, but impala is a perfect size antelope for wild dogs, and it makes up 80% of their diet. But they will also go for bigger game, wildebeest, kudu, and even waterbuck.
Okay, one more giraffe has approached me, and the other one that had left, the big guy, has decided to come back. I think he forgot something, or he wants to go and tell the others to hurry up. It's getting late. This is the Maasai giraffe. There is other species found all over Africa. In Kenya, we have 3 species, and this is the most common. Here in the Masai Mara, they roam free. This is a fully grown male. Look at him. Those horns, fully grown, and also you can tell that he's got another one almost growing on his forehead. Those are not true horns. They're called ossicons because true horns are made of keratin. These ones have got skin around them. One interesting fact about giraffes is that in their legs, you can tell they're very thin and no much meat. This is an adaptation because giraffes have got one of the highest blood pressures because, you know, they have a very big heart. If they were to pump the blood really fast, if the legs had more meat, the legs would erupt. So they have very thick skin. They have very thick skin in their legs to try and minimize the flow of blood onto their legs, and so it can allow the blood to go upwards towards the brain where it's much, much needed. See how many we have here? Quite a good number. I don't know if they're coming, but I'm going to move on. Hopefully I'll catch them on the other side. But let me see if they're going to turn around in the next 5 minutes.
So guys, on the topic of finding more animals, good afternoon. My name is Moritz and welcome to a warm afternoon in the Tswalu Kalahari Game Reserve. Behind the camera, as always, we've got David. And guys, we are currently in the area where we left the Southern Pride with one of the males and the cubs about 2 days ago on a blue wildebeest kill. So our mission for this afternoon is to try and find the tracks of where they went out after finishing the kill. I'm fairly confident that the kill will not be there anymore, seeing as that there was quite a bit of lions and, I mean, it was only a blue wildebeest, so they would have finished that maybe during Sunday night and would have headed out, hopefully, well, most likely towards water. So we're going to go and see if we can pick up on the tracks and then find those animals for you.
Welcome back to this water hole. We're back in this water hole. We have left our pale spotted owlet. Flew off. Look at this Egyptian geese. There are vegetarian bird that would feed on shoots of grasses, as soft of a shoot of grasses, as well as fresh, smallest mushroom shoots in grasses. But you mainly find them near the water because, of course, they're a water bird. They were able to survive and swim. They're very good. You chill in the water. You can dive in the water, but again, you can see them far from the water sometimes. And here, along with the hippo, looks like a bull hippo find himself in this water hole. Probably because of it traveling. Can sometimes happen that, if you lost your females, somebody else have taken them, and all you do is to wander around on your own. You're lucky when you have a lot of water around as a hippo, because you can able to choose which water that is empty you can go rest on.
Have a look at the size of this eagle on this branch, and you'll notice the different colors. It's like black on the back, quite a lot of white on the legs, and you'll notice that it looks like a small crest behind its head. Now this is one of the biggest eagles that we do get in the area. It's called a martial eagle, and they are pretty large. And these eagles, sometimes if they do perch like that, they can catch anything the size of a small warthog, even young impala, vervet monkeys. Pretty big, strong eagle. Now what we're going to try and do is, because we can only see it from quite a distance, we're going to try and see if we can ease slightly forward to get a bit of a closer view of this eagle. Because you can see we're pretty far off. Now what we're going to have to do is we have to do what we call little frog leap. So we're going to have to move closer and then stop the vehicle, have a look, see how he reacts, and then slowly move closer. Or else sometimes they just fly off if you approach them too quickly. So let's give it a go. So the shade right in front of us here is where we're going to use as a marker. So once we get there, we'll have another look at the eagle and then see if we can get another view. So let's stop here quickly, see if we can get another glimpse of this eagle. Gu, I agree with you. It is a beautiful raptor. And just look at how it's perched up at the top of that branch. And you can see it's looking down. So I imagine if I was an eagle, on a warm day, what probably might move out is something like snakes, lizards, any reptile that will probably need a little bit of sun will move into these open patches. But also by having a perch, you can see if there's anything moving between or in the undergrowth, or maybe in some of the trees, and you'll be able to spot it from there. Now we had another glimpse. Should we try and give it one more go and get a closer view of this eagle? As I said, there's no guarantee. It might fly off, but it might be that last little one before we get a better.
Martial eagle, my favorite eagles because of their size and how they subdue their prey. Now, I don't have a martial eagle here, but I got something smaller, a feathered friend that is called an oxpecker. And they don't have any commonality with the eagles because they feed differently. Martial eagles will get their prey, be it an impala or the smaller birds to feed on. The oxpeckers here will get parasites from these huge mammals here, the African Cape buffaloes. Now, apparently we get so many mites and ticks between the eyelashes or around the eyes of the buffaloes, sometimes in the ears. And this is what these oxpeckers will try and get rid of. I just talked about the ears, you see there? Because those are softer parts of the body of a buffalo. It's very easy for the ticks to attach themselves into. In the grass there, we got a cattle egret, feeding differently from the oxpeckers. Sometimes we call both relationships symbiotic, because what the buffalo does as he walks through the grass there, or as he feeds, he disturbs all insect that could be in there. And that's what that egret jumps and catches. I do not know the benefit of the buffalo here from the egret, but you can tell the benefit of the buffalo from the oxpeckers. So, not sure exactly which is a real symbiotic relationship. Well, I left the river when I didn't see any zebras or wildebeest coming because they had some wind from somewhere. There could be some rhinos ahead of me, and I hopefully want to go and catch up with them.
Look what I just found. A lone male lion with a very scruffy mane. I think he's one of 4 I saw about 2 weeks ago on a buffalo kill. He hasn't faced us, only he gave us a side profile. We'll need to see the face or maybe see the numbers if there is more so that we can identify which pride he's from. He looks like he's around 3 years, and definitely he's one of the pride, from one of the prides around here. I think the Marsh Pride, but I leave to identify that. This is a very pristine area where he is, where there's nice cover. It's marshy, so there's always plenty of food for him. And at that age, I think he's still part of a pride. I'm hoping that they're going to come out. Animal life, you ask about a lion if it eats plants. Could you finish that bit, that last bit of that question, please? Okay, I don't know what will happen to the lion if it eats plants. Well, I don't think they eat plants. They rarely eat plants. The only time they eat plants is when they eat grass to try and activate their bellies so that they can throw up all the hairs that they have accumulated over time, over a period of time, because all the skin they eat from certain animals that they can chew contains lots of hairs, and so that one is not digested. It is collected and stored in part of the stomach, and so to throw up they will need to eat grass so that they can throw up.
Now, the dogs are just off one of the main roads in the reserve called Central Road, believe it or not. And if you did not know that they were here already, you would never see them. They're just far off from the road. They're small, they're petite, and they're flat. You would never know they were here unless you heard a vocalization or, of course, tracked them. But we already knew they were here. We had them this morning. And it's so good to get to spend time with dogs without having to drive like a crazy person through the bush. And of all the carnivores we get out here, wild dogs probably have the most structured social order of all the carnivores, almost altruistic. Shelley, you're seeing cute big ears, I know, almost like Mickey Mouse. Reminds me of my days at Disneyland. Adorable. And it just shows you immediately how they rely on their hearing. It's so acute. The large ears, it's just cartilage, acts as a satellite dish almost, channeling the sound into the ear, and they can move them independently, and this is used to try and figure out exactly what direction the sound is coming from. Humans are not very good at that. My ears are terrible, but humans struggle to pinpoint an exact direction immediately. Whereas dogs, as soon as they hear a sound of a potential predator or the rest of their pack, they know immediately what direction to turn in. And that's what those ears are, well, designed for, really. And they're the second most endangered carnivore in Africa after the Ethiopian wolf. Their populations are a lot higher than the Ethiopian wolf, but they're still the second most endangered carnivore here. And that's why spending time with them is really special. Historically, they were just eradicated by farmers, game wardens. They were thought to be dirty vermin, carry disease, so they were immediately shot, and then they were hit with blows from rabies and canine distemper. So this sighting right now is very special.
So in this mound, we're just looking at it right now. See the hole in there? We saw a rock monitor lizard going in. But since it's a daylight like this, could be the way of hunting, because that's how they do their hunt, going into holes. They'll feed on eggs, they'll feed on anything they come across. Well, there's not much of a millipede right now, but they can eat on beetles, other lizards as well, different species. And we're just hoping maybe it will stick its head again. But, it's been a few minutes since we saw it going in there. So the rock monitor lizard, the land lizard, mammal. And there is also another one, which is a water monitor lizard. That is a water. Depend on water. And they do come out sometimes, but a lot of hunting, they do it in water for frogs, fishes who died in the water, they just eat it. But they're land mammal. It's not coming out at all since. So whatever it's doing in there, eventually will definitely come out. That will be good if it does come out while we're around here.
Thompson's gazelle we have here, and this is an antelope that has got a very high population. It is capable of migrating. There's about 200,000 during migration. This is a bachelor group of males. They have those nicely formed horns and very sharp. Over here, everybody is at peace until there is a female. They usually fight each other, sometimes to death. You can tell they're all very cold. Cold. You can tell their coats are very scruffy. Yeah, these guys are very, very fast, and they can turn at very sharp angles. I don't know what they see, but they seem to be very, very alert. They have amazing eyesight. They can spot, a cheetah or, a lion or a leopard, up to 500 meters away. That is around 1,500 feet. That's how good the eyesight is. And when you're this small, you need that kind of eyesight because, if you snooze, you lose. You don't want to find somebody already at your doorstep. You will lose. But they are very, very fast and can turn at very sharp angles. They are favored by cheetahs. Also, wild dogs, hyenas do eat them, but they do really, really well. Where are you going? I think is that capital? You ask about the horns. They are attached to the skull, and they are bony inside, and then they have keratin growing on the outside. I don't know if that's what you asked, but they are just horns from a goat or a cow. They have bone on the inside and then keratin on the outside. They are attached to the skull. Yes, they are definitely looking at something. I don't know what they see, but the eyesight is helping them, make sure they're safe and they're not being stocked. Where they are, the grass is short, so it's perfect for them, and they can see anything approaching them. Remember to talk to me on #WildEarth. Question and comments are really, really welcome. They're still looking to the left, and I haven't seen exactly what they're looking for. So I'm going to take my binoculars and try and find out what they're looking at.
Sorry about that, but we got this beautiful wildebeest on front of us. Looks like once we come out of that bush, they also ran into this open, but it also looks like we're going to lose them now. This is one of the female. The rest of them already moved into the brush, into that bush. And again, we were looking around for our lizard. And there we got another one. It's moving around still. This is not the one which we were looking for. That one didn't come out of that mound, so we have to leave it. So this is another one. Looks like a male that. Looking at the male. Male a lot smaller compared to the female. Angie. A lot of time I've seen them, they don't really hunt on squirrels or mongoose, but if there's a chance they can get hold of mongoose, of course they can kill them. But there is no kind of going for each other in terms of what the mongoose does to snake. Not with this one, they don't do that, a mongoose. But I haven't seen that really happen. So it could happen sometimes. But I had never really witnessed it or heard of it. But I would just gonna move forward so we can have a good look. But there was a good question that it's the animal out here. They do things unexpected. So we're just gonna go around just to see if we can have a good look at that. It's always nice when you look for something you don't find, and then all of a sudden you pick something else. Could be the same species of what you were looking for, or the different species. That makes a lot of difference to your effort. Look at this. It's kind of a sunny up there. But usually, of me seeing a lizard, a rock monitor lizard wandering around in this mound, remind of me of how do they breed. Usually they would need in a mound or other side of the mound, not inside, but then it's got to be very soft for them to dig a hole and there lies eggs. About sometimes around maybe 50 eggs in there, and they bury them. And then again, for the eggs to hatch, it's got to be soft again.
Good afternoon and welcome to Paraidlands, where we're at Ndlovu Dam with a bunch of birds. We were hoping to, of course, see some bigger animals, but they haven't arrived yet. Perhaps a little bit later. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Odie, and I suppose better late than never, but we were trying to find you some big elephants, but we were not successful. But it's quite interesting. These white birds that you can see arrived this morning. Now, I know you're probably thinking it's quite ridiculous that you're getting so excited about a bird. Now, they're fairly common across South Africa. And a big herd of buffalo that we found very early this morning walked all the way to this dam, which is quite a distance away. And it's just not very common to see cattle egrets following the big herds of buffalo in this area. So they came down, they had a big drink, and then they they moved off. But the birds stayed, which I was surprised by. And the reason why I'm so surprised is because it's a really good method of feeding that these birds typically use is to follow large mammals around. But they don't seem to be doing much of anything, just doing what birds do. Most of their days at this time of the year is spent trying to look for food and then, of course, absorbing the nice warm sun and fixing your feathers. But hopefully we'll get to see them marching across some of this dried up mud looking for insects.
Beautiful. Look at this. We get a nice and closer look at this Moneta lizard. It's pretty bright on the background, but you're able to see it nicely there. But it's right on top of the mound. That's why we find it. So they also have external ears. So not like a snake, but these do have external ears, which there's an opening of an ear. But you see them hunt, they have this, like in a snake, tongue that stick out every time, but this is how they sense. So for them to be able to communicate as well, all of these creatures, whether snakes or reptiles, they have what's called pheromones that makes them able to locate one another through that chemical when they have to. But this one is taking it easy like that. But it's keeping an eye on us. But it's not that maybe it doesn't trust us. If it was that case, then it would be already long gone into the holes. It's probably because the sun is coming there through nice for a warmer.
So have a look at how the whole pride moved into the shade along the river. See, there's one of the cubs just like joined up, but you can see all are in a line just following that strip of shade down the river. There's a beautiful tree off to the right, and with the angle of the sun setting, it's casting that shadow into the river, and that's how they all decided to go and lie down. But look at the size of that cub's belly. Definitely had a good meal. So that's the young daughter that went, I don't know if that's mom, probably decided to go and lay down. Just right next to mom, with the paw on top of the head. Now there's a few lines, so if we start off from that side and we move like to the right, just notice all the lines. So in the back you can see an ear there, in the front.
Welcome back to and beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. When last we left off, we were on the hunt for the cheetah that we had found this morning. We had just found some gorgeous giraffe that were surveying the scene, and we had no signs yet. We are still looking hopefully around the area, but have happened to come across some really stunning zebra that you can see behind me. In fact, you can see the one at the back there is now just standing completely to the side, and if you have a look at its tail, it's actually lost some of the threads of the tail there, some of the hairs. If you compare that back one to the one right in front, you can actually see that it's a lot thinner and quite a little bit shorter. Now, I don't think that's from a bite per se. Maybe it's just, being quite rough with its tail. It's maybe caught. In fact, when you're doing walks, which we often do around here, you'll find a lot of these little hairs caught on little twigs and little rocks. And I think perhaps that zebra just happened to maybe catch the tail on something quite strong and rip out quite a few strands. So Jasmine, a lot of animals actually, they do tend to sleep quite a bit during the evening. And what they do is they'll find an area very similar to this, in fact. They generally try and get as out into the open as possible. And what they'll do is they'll take turns sleeping. So there's generally one awake. In fact, they often sleep with other different species. So just behind us to the left, we've actually got some wildebeest. And, that's one of the benefits of them going in groups like this, is that they've got more eyes, more ears, and more senses to look out for those predators. And it just makes it a little bit easier for them, then they don't have to worry so much. I think you can imagine, after years of, that zebra we were looking at earlier is quite a few years old. So quite a few years of every day and night worrying about the same thing. It's not the same sort of reaction that we get. They've learned how to live in the environment. They know what precautions to take, and then they sleep quite soundly, provided they're doing the precautions they've put in place. As we're looking at these wildebeest, in fact, this is quite a good example as well of what we're talking about, the precautions that they put in place. I don't know if you can hear the wind that's coming through. It's quite a gusty day here at Phinda, and that will impact these animals' senses. You can imagine when you're walking through the bush, as the wind gusts through your ears, you can't hear very well, you can't smell very well, and that really limits all your senses down to just your eyesight being at top performance. So that's why they've gone into this area. They aren't moving too much, they can see really well, and they're going to stay here. They're going to stay here for a while until maybe it starts settling down, and still maybe they start to get a bit hungry, and they're going to carry on feeding after that.
A little bit of movement now at my side. There's a gentle breeze coming through and cloud cover. So still very snoozy, but a little bit of movement. And look at the proportion of the ears to the face on this little puppy. Sigh. Now, I mentioned the sort of really structured social dynamics of wild dogs and how it's almost altruistic compared to any other carnivore. There's a great example of a wild dog named Solo. And if you haven't heard of her, look her up. She lost her entire pack. It's a long story. She lost them in stages and she was on her own. Basically, she was solo. And this happened in Botswana, Okavango Delta, I'm sure. Could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure. And basically, she survived for about 6 months, avoiding predators and hunting alone. But she eventually made a very strange friendship with a hyena. Yes, a spotted hyena. And the two of them ended up forming a little ragtag, if you like, with some black-backed jackals. So you had wild dog, hyena and jackals all together, and they formed this strange little gang, or this little pack. And basically, wild dogs are such good hunters that the hyena realised the wild dog will hunt every day, all day, and the hyena can always get some food. I imagine it's the same for the jackal. And the dog realised that hyenas are much bigger and more fierce, I believe, than wild dogs themselves. They can chase off the predators. And therefore, it was a win-win on both occasions. And you had this amazing little pack of 3 different species, which I think is just incredible. But please do search Solo if you've never heard of her before. Survival always comes first. She needs a pack. Now, it doesn't have to be a pack of wild dogs, but they're social animals and they are very structured. It's ingrained within their DNA, and therefore Solo, and I imagine any other wild dog, if she lost her pack, would try and find others. Such an amazing story. And hopefully, shortly, our little puppies become a bit more alert.
So more mammals have come down to Ndlovu Dam in the form of warthogs. Two of my favorite warthogs that I see at least once a day, which is really, really nice. So not only do we follow the lives of the big cats, the wild dogs, the elephants, but also the smaller animals too, because they are just as important to the ecosystem. Hello. I think this is my favorite one of all time. Yes, there she. What is it? I can't see. It's a bit too dark to see if she's missing. And yeah, no, that actually might be a ball. Anyways, they're warthogs, and it's hot enough for them to wallow. They're just drinking. And if you would like a bit of a laugh today, or perhaps you are having a bad day, then I highly recommend just waiting patiently, and maybe, just maybe, after this warthog finishes having a drink, it will plop down in the water and roll around in the mud, because that's quite funny. But you can probably see a little head popping up in the water just in front of the warthog. That is a terrapin that is doing that, just coming up for a breath of air, and then it'll probably go underneath the water again. There's lots and lots of terrapins in the water. Sometimes you'll even see them out basking in the sun, trying to keep nice and warm. So if you ever see those tiny little heads moving around, now you know what they are. Don't try to get too close, though, because they don't smell very nice, and they also bite. Yes, I'm talking from experience. Not that they have teeth. They've got like a sort of hard beak-like structure. Off they go. No, no wallowing for us. What a pity. Oh, watch your step. Bit of a clumsy fella, this one. Yes, maybe walking is a better option. Not easy to navigate over that very uneven ground. I've tried to walk across here a few times and did exactly the same thing as that warthog. Neem, I wish that I could see a warthog fishing, but unfortunately they don't eat fish particularly. Not that I've seen them do that. They're more omnivorous than you'd think. In times of drought or in these winter months when we don't have much vegetation around, it has been seen where warthogs have been scavenging on a carcass. However, hunting warthogs, probably won't see those. But yes, but definitely feeding on some carcasses. I have seen it, and I know many guides who have seen that. But it's amazing that we can do these live safaris every single day and chat to you. So keep on following us so we can keep on teaching you about the wildlife.
We've been having a look at these lions for quite a while now, and the only ones that have moved were the youngsters, so you can't really see them now. The mum's belly is so full because of that buffalo that they were feeding on this morning. For some of our viewers that don't know the whole story of these lions, so they weren't on the property during the last 2 days, but last night we could hear them calling quite a lot. And then this morning we were following the tracks, and one of the two of the rangers were actually tracking them the whole morning, and they found them feeding off a buffalo carcass. So somewhere during the evening they probably caught an old buffalo bull in quite a dense area, and then the whole pride managed to work together to pull down that buffalo. And after feeding for quite a while, they eventually left it because there was nothing left, headed down towards the river and decided to find a nice cool patch to lie down. Now from where these lions are, there's actually a male also lying down, but you can't really see him from this angle. We'll wait for him to move a bit before we'll try and show him. But you'll see this one here. If you notice around the neck, there's longish hair. So this is a young male. And they'll only start showing a very impressive mane once they get to like 6, maybe 6.5 years. But for him, the sun was crouching up on him, and so now he decided to move on and go and find some deeper shade to lie down in, right next to the others. Now, if we zoom out a bit here, I just want to show you where they started. Now, you'll notice on the very right, there's one lion all by itself in the sun, right there. Now, they all started in the grass, and as the shade or the angle of the sun moved, they then maneuvered themselves and followed the shade all the way down into the river. And what will normally happen from here, as the sun continues to set, that shade is going to move, and they might just move with that shade. has been such a nice warm day today, and that's why we were able to find the elephants down at the water. If it was nice and cool, the chances are more likely that the lions could have moved for quite a bit this morning, especially after making kill. They could have started heading down towards water, but because it's been so warm, they might just wait for it to cool down before they eventually start moving again. But there's no rush.
Sorry about that. I'm just directing someone into the sighting. Bear with me. Copy, copy. See you soon, Mike. Our dogs are still flat, but vehicles are getting mobile, and therefore I must direct them into the sighting. I think it's the same location as this morning. So going on what I was saying about altruism, obviously the sort of definition of altruism is selfless concern or disinterested concern, maybe when it comes to animals, for the well-being of others. So it's completely selfless. You're not doing it in a selfish manner. And it's very tricky when it comes to the animal kingdom. Can animals be altruistic? Ooh, there's a lot of debate in the scientific community. Some say yes, some say no. And ultimately, an animal does what it needs to for its own survival. But with wild dogs, why we say it seems like they exhibit altruistic behavior is because, for example, at a kill, the youngest will always eat first. Then the subordinates will eat. Last to eat normally are the pair at the top, the alpha male and the alpha female. So the entire pack is catered for before the leaders of the pack, if you like. Everyone gets their turn. Whereas in hyenas, you will always see the matriarch, like Ribbon this morning, stealing all the food and eating it herself. It's not how it works in wild dogs. The alpha pair will make sure that everyone's fed. And if there was not enough food to go around, say they only managed to kill a small steenbok, then they will hunt again. And the hunting regime will just continue and continue. Those that hunt will regurgitate for the pups and even for adults that stayed behind. Everyone will get fed, even the sick, even the injured, even the old. And that's why we say that the wild dogs are almost altruistic.
Good afternoon, everyone. Back here at Djuma Private Game Reserve, looking at these magnificent, beautiful elephants. Hi, my name is Andrew, and Theo on camera, and we'll be just having a look at these elephants, see what they're up to this afternoon. Looks like they're just having their own time, and they're feeding right now. So, well, it's kind of a sunny, seeing their rears flapping every now and then like this. It's because of trying to cool themselves off. But I've seen that they have also, they're kind of a spirit around here. But this particular female, she had a baby around. But see that baby, I have to reverse back. But anyway, looks like they're going to cross to us. We're in the western boundary right now. And if I could just wait a little bit to see if all of them will get comfortable heading our way. It's quite a lot of green shoots already that is showing up in this grasses, all the grass. So it makes a lot of animal to be attracted to feeding. Linda, that I never heard, but it could be maybe when in a zoo really, but in a wild, it's kind of very difficult. Only thing with elephants, when they get over the age of 50, 55, 60 years, and they have a problem with the tooth, the molars. So this is what really will kill them before they reach that 100 years or maybe 90 years old. And remember, the teeth, it's major for them because they use them to eat. But then once they weren't able to use them because they feel painful when they use them, and they will die of starve. So usually that's a natural causes because nobody killed them. It's because they cannot able to eat. But in the wild, sea elephant reach up to 40 years, 45, 60. Roughly lifespan is about 60, 65 years. Shelley, have I ever seen the birth of elephant? So I haven't. But, the previous camp that I used to work for, and one of the staff members able to witness that, but I was so close in that area, but I missed it, And I went to the area, of course, just to experience what was happening there, because I didn't believe when somebody told me they saw a birth of an elephant giving birth. So yeah, I haven't yet, but I'm hoping to actually still see it while I'm in this wild. So this is the girl, female elephant. Might actually see the eyelashes. And most elephants, they well developed with such a long eyelashes. I know there's a shadow taking place now in this eye of animal. But otherwise, these eyelashes protect the eye, not from the wood itself, but from usually they play with sand, play with very rough soil, put them on top of them, and dust bathing as well. This is done by the trunk when they want to, and they disturb the ground by using the foreleg, and once this ground gets softer and they suck the air into their trunk and they blow it off in their faces everywhere. The reason they have to get away the flies. But it happens that sometimes some of the sand, without these eyelashes, they will go right into their animal's eye. As well as when they mud while they're spraying with mud all over the body, because they have to do that for their cooling off during the day, hot day.
So alrighty guys, we found some fresh tracks for a female. We are thinking that it's that same female that we had a couple of mornings ago vocalizing like that, the one that we're hoping to actually see her showing her cubs to us for the first time. Now if you can have a look over here, there's the fresh track of the female lion. She's moving in this direction. So we're currently just following that and seeing where it leads, but it seems like it's quite fresh. It's over the antelope's tracks from this morning coming from the water and so on. So very promising, and we're gonna follow that for a little while longer. As soon as we've picked something up, we're gonna let you know, and then we're gonna show you what we found. But yeah, we're very hopeful that it is that female, that's got the small cubs. We never know, because you can't really ID the females around here just by their tracks. There's certain males that we can ID them just by looking at their front foot or so, because one of them has a huge foot, other one walks funny and so on. But the females, their paws are generally more or less the same size, so it's difficult to really say that it is that female. But she is moving by herself, so that's a good thing. And because of that, we are hopeful that we're going to find her.
Our puppies are getting a little bit more active, slowly but surely. There's movement, there's twitching, there's yawning. And it's perfect timing. It's still quite hot, but there's a really lovely breeze coming through that's going to cool them down nicely. And normally, just like lion prides or elephant herd, once the pack starts to get too big, even though it's very structured, normally around sort of 20 to 25 individuals, the pack will split or some will begin to disperse. And this is because it's too much pressure on the pack. Susie, I'm honestly not sure about the movements of the Pungwe pack, but wild dogs are not territorial. They don't have territories. They're more nomadic. You can call them vagabonds, if you like. They're really only sedentary for 3 months, and that's normally sort of when they're denning. And it's normally around the May to July period, depending on what kind of year you're having. So they don't defend territories. They only defend den sites. And of course, it's now September, and we have these puppies that I think are about 13 weeks old now. So yes, that would be right. They're stuck in a den for 3 months, normally May to July. The gestation period is 2.5 months. So a little bit prior to that, the alpha female is going to get ready, choose her den site, and of course get ready to give birth. So they're not territorial, but their movements, shall we say, their home ranges and territories are different. But the home range is, they've been found in Buffelshoek, spending a lot of time in Djuma, Torchwood and Chitwa. Now, out with that, I'm not really sure. So they have a really large home range, but not a territory, I'm afraid. Oh, we're starting to get up. Michelle, I love their colours too, tri-coloured. It's actually the same colours as my beagle at home. Tan, black and white. But, well, she obviously looks nothing like a wild dog, and she is not as slim. She's carrying a few extra pounds. However, it's the same sort of palette of colours. That mottled pattern as well is just spectacular. So I agree with you, Michelle. Now, the adults have gone through the thicket here, but I'm not going to move my engine. We're really not far away from the puppies, so we'll wait until the puppies start moving at some point before we begin to move. I want to get a count. I believe there should be 11. So I really don't think it's going to be too long now before they all stand up.
So good afternoon, ladies and gents. We have some nice, beautiful head of buffalo. The one just in front of me here, it's one of the Dagga boys. There's also, like, you know, the whole head around here, which are busy grazing. Like, it seems like they're heading towards the water hole. Riperile, good afternoon. My name is Norman Chauke. I'll be your guide for this afternoon. And behind the camera, it's Odi doing his thing. It's really a very beautiful afternoon here at Pride Land with some nice sun. Yeah. It's really amazing how these animals are busy grazing here. So these guys who probably spend so much time grazing now, but, like, you know, it's just like few hours of, you know, the day. It seems like they will be heading towards Leopard Dam, where I was hoping that we will find them. There's actually a report from other guides saying that they were seen somewhere around like here. Yeah, and we happened to bump into them. Shelly, I've been chased by buffalo. I think this one of the story that I shared with everyone, like when I started not so long ago, yes, I was chased by these amazing animals. But we were on foot trekking lions at one of the camp around here, the Lowveld in Karongwen. And yeah, it was a beautiful experience being chased, but it was only Daga boys. So we're on this trail, nice morning, following this four, the whole pride, and then four, we bump into them. Buffalo, but we're trekking lions, and it didn't end well. My colleague had to climb a tree, and because I was holding a rifle, so I didn't have a chance to climb anything, but I kept on running. I'm actually quite good at running, but I was, So yes, Shelly. Look at those boars, Look at those boars, the horns of these animals. Look at those, It's quite amazing. Those are their tool that they'll use, especially when cornered by predators such as lions. So I'm just gonna stick around here and watch some nice behavior from these animals and see where they go. I'm hoping that they'll go and drink water at Leopard Dam, which is not.
Welcome back. Last we were with those beautiful zebra and wildebeest, and we were just looking at the entire scene that was kind of unfolding at us at Phinda. Oh, that rhino, if you have a look there, just got up. What happened just before we started watching it is there was this gust of wind, and now look at it. Can you see how it's sort of standing quite prominently, and it's lifting its head, and its ears are directly forward. Now the wind's actually blowing exactly from that direction, and moments before that it was completely fast asleep. The ears were twitching a little bit, but its head was completely down. And I think what's happened is it's picked up the scent of something. I'm not sure what. Could be a false alarm. You know, there's a lot of cats that they actually scent mark, and their scent mark can stay around for ages. So it could be picking up something like that, or it could be a fresh new scent. But whatever it is, I think it decided it warranted an investigation, just to get up and have a quick look around, as you can see it's doing now. You can also have a look and see how the ears are sort of moving from side to side. It's listening, it's picking up any noise within the area. You know, they've picked this spot here quite strategically. In fact, if you have a look, now that we're having that around, you can see, it's a male. But you can also see all that mud that's all along the side there, and you can actually see how there's a different color sort of on the top of the bum and towards the front of the face, and the rest is actually quite a bit more, dark in complexion, and that's because that's quite fresh mud. It's actually, they've come and mud wallowed here, and then they've gone to lie down there for a bit of a rest. Like you can see, as I pointed out, it is definitely a male, and the fact that it's with another rhino makes me think that it is a young male. Now, Ivy, this is a truly magnificent sighting. To see rhinos like these out in the wild is becoming a more rare and rare thing. I'm sure you've heard about the poaching problem that is, South Africa and the whole world, in fact, is facing. As you can see, these ones have also been dehorned, as is our policy at Phinda, Private Game Reserve. So, Sassy Cassie, rhinos, I think they are incredibly smart. We've really got to give animals credit where credit is due. You especially see when you're on foot how quickly they pick up certain signs or clues to them that there is danger, or even things like them always finding good feeding or moving throughout the reserve, when throughout the different seasons, you actually see them going from different areas, that have better grazing, better water. So they're constantly changing their behavior and they're constantly adapting. And I really do think, you can always say there's certain animals are a bit more clever than others. They're doing a whole lot of scientific studies to check those things. But certainly rhinos, I would say, they've definitely got a big brain, and they know how to use it. They know how to keep themselves safe as much as they can. So these two, you can see how he's put his head down, and his ears are still moving, but his head's no longer up. So whatever it was that spooked this male earlier, it's no longer a concern for him. He's sort of relaxed. The other one hasn't even picked his head up at all. So I think perhaps it was maybe an old scent mark or something that just got picked up by the wind and maybe caused him to investigate a little bit. But I think we're going to sit and see what they get up to, see if there's anything that they do or anything they go and investigate further.
Back to elephants. Still has no change, but they're now getting slightly close to the road. Remember, we're on the boundary, the western boundary. And in a private car can drive past here anytime, so that But these two females, they're still around here and enjoying the green that I notice is quite a few green that's already in this area, as you can see underneath of these animals' legs. And that young one we were talking about is still not really visible, but I'm sure soon would be available, or for us to be able to see that. But it's still heading away from us. So herd of elephants, all they do, they take care of one another. And they're standing now, they're all spread up. It's only the two bigger ones that we can see now, all are visible for us. But could be mean that there is more far away from here, but they do communicate, which is a sound communication. So savanna and forest elephant is that these tend to be slightly big African elephants compared to those, but also is that they different in terms of the habitations. Some elephants, those that prefer savanna area like this in low veld, they tend to not too much select for them to feed. They just take whatever they could. So it's plenty of grasses and the herbs, different trees, roots that dig for. But in forests, just because of, could be that it's evergreen or it's all covered area, and that's what the difference. These they can sustain in a hot day, or they can go a few days without drinking. It wouldn't be a problem with them. So that is only the difference. But the size was as well, the male way far too big compared to those out there. Sorry, like I said, it's going to be a lot of traffic in this road here, and we will able to hear all noises of the car, but they're all driving past by. See how she does it, how she does it with the trunk. Oh, there's the young one now coming out. Look at that. It's beautiful light where they are right now. So, and the young one's going to come out between them. So since they're all female out here, it's no problem. I cannot tell right now which one is the mother, which one is not, because they take care of one another so well, this animal. It could be that the one that the young one heading into, if it is the mother, could be, looks like it's going underneath probably drinking right now. I cannot start the vehicle now because then they will get fright. But the young one seems to be drinking from the other side. Just cannot see it well. You know, a young one drink through the mouth, and all it does, just make sure the trunk is put up, and then the mother has to reposition to pause for the young one to feed through and drink.
So we still right here at, with the buffaloes. It's actually nice just seeing them, like, you know, making the most of whatever is available now, especially with food. But what I really found really amazing is that if you can look around here, there's a nice big termite mound. Like, we all know the role of the termite mound within our ecosystem, like, you know, decomposing all the dead material and then bringing everything on top. And then whenever having rain or, yeah, so the nice grass grows in these sort of areas. And now, what I'm observing, or what we're observing here at Eco Training Pride Lands, is that these animals are just, like, you know, feeding not really far from this termite mound, and they're also, like, you know, some of them were just around termite mound. I've seen rhinos as well, especially if you're trekking rhinos. They're also, like, you know, this kind of areas just feeding around this nice, beautiful termite mound. So it's really nice just sitting here. You can see most of them, they're still busy feeding. It's actually quite a big herd of buffalo just right here. Yeah. There's just one cow here, just very close to us. Can see how she's nibbling on the grass, and also, like, you know, not really going for the top, really top layers of the grass, but like going really also just like in this small kind of like thickest. So Ian, a buffalo actually have like it's actually 4-chambered stomach, so they are ruminant. So what does that mean is that now we see them busy feeding, and whenever they will find a nice shade or wherever they will lay or rest, what they will start is just they will again start to rechew or chew the cud, and yeah, so they don't have like 2 stomach, but it's 4-chambered. So yeah. Can see this cow, buffalo bull just right here next to us with a nice grass on. It's almost like, you know, us as well. Sometimes when you're enjoying your meal, you just have like some sticking into your mouth. Look at that. That look like, you know, they're asking like, you owe me something, special on Fridays. So if you look at on this buffalo's body, you see there's like mud. I'm not sure if you wondered where that mud is coming from. So this animal also like do what we call mud wallowing. So they'll wallow in the mud, which helps them to get rid of ticks or any parasite on their body, and it also helps them to cool down. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why they're heading towards leopard dam to drink, and also sometimes just sit on this water. Now it's just a matter of like moving really slowly, like as they graze. One of the things that I've experienced with this animal, like you find a lot, many books says they only feed on like grass. We had like a drought, I think it's about a year and a half in one of eco training camps, and I've seen these animals, especially like, you know, in times like this in winter, like I've seen them like chewing on mopani leaves, which I found very, very amazing. We're gonna stick around here and like still continue watching some animal behavior, something about like moving from one place to another. But like, yeah, it's a beautiful sighting. So we're just gonna stick around here and see and observe these animals.
And I'm trying to see where I can find something so that I can close down. But it's always interesting to talk about mud bathing, the stomach system of different animals, especially the ruminants. I don't know if we should have some hippos here. Oh, look at that. Yeah, we'll stick here for a little bit. Hope the rain passes, but we have a small man-made pond here, and we have 4 newcomers. They are our resident new hippos, and look what he's doing. Yeah, hippos never pass their solid waste untouched. It is always whisked using their flat tails, and they spread it. For some reason, they always do that. I don't know how they feel now that it's raining, but I'm sure maybe they're enjoying it. These are 4 that just appeared. I think they came from the Mara River because there's nowhere else they can come from. And we have one big elephant, and he's heading away into the plains. It is raining, as you can see. We are getting these localized rains nowadays. They're very much welcome. And I'm hoping that these will attract the wildebeest that had headed down south. The rumor is they're heading back in their thousands, so we should get them back in the Mara quite soon. Yes, I'm enjoying this bull head away, and I'm going to close down because I might get wet and I don't want to lose some of my equipment.
Beautiful, you know. We're sitting in this beautiful light, open sky, sunny, and sun is penetrating through this animal, and then it's good that they have rain in that side. So, but now this young elephant crossed the road. Looks like they have crossed already the boundary. These 2 and the other female on the other side, and it could be that they're making their way towards the rest of the herd. Maybe the herd have moved in that directions. So that's why, you know, I stick around, I wait around here just to be able to see where finally they're gonna go. If we have to look for the rest of the herd, which directions. But we talk about the communication they do. It's so important for them. And that for sure, they would be able to know where the other friends just by communication. Frequencies, some of the sound we cannot able to hear, but then it works better for them. I was looking at this young one. It's probably nearly a year old. Sherman, elephant, true, is dangerous. So, I mean, it seems to be very chill. Or for now, for example, we here, we got a vehicle sitting with them, but we're not playing any difficult situation against them. We're not pushing them over. We're not making noises. So and they get used to cars quite often. But when it comes to this animal comes angry, their mood can change just like human or most other animals do, where they all of a sudden get upset and you don't know why. But herd of elephant, it seems to be simple to be able to understand them, how to do, whether they're angry, whether they're happy, just because of your approach towards them. You always check their behavior against your noises of their vehicles. But once you realize, one or three of them, they're concentrating on your coming in, then it means that you have to stop. Maybe they don't understand. But, they're truly dangerous animal that they kill, and you won't believe such a big animal like that would trumpet you or step over you or roll some of their parks. They've been well known of the elephants, people driving around in this park, they don't understand behavior of this animal. A lot of time they get their car rolled over by these massive bull elephants, more especially this male bull elephant. When it comes on must, there will be. So dangerous. So we're surely going to leave them, carry on, look for more. Probably we pick up some herd anywhere around here, which will be the friends of this one.
I'm sure the elephants are more active than my little sleepy peepees here. They keep moving though, but there's some puppies that are just absolutely exhausted. It's very sweet. They keep standing up, yawning, and then, going back down again. And it's just so lovely to see such a thriving population. It's very normal that they don't all make it. Wild dogs don't have an easy life. They're fast, they're nimble on their feet, they're slimline, they've sort of evolved for running, coursing. They hunt by coursing. They've got very well developed nasal passages that allow them to facilitate their breathing during really heavy exertion. And they can run extremely fast and extremely far. And that's exactly how they survive out here. They don't have the strength, shall we say, and we don't have the muscles as the other carnivores in the Felidae family. Lincoln, wild dogs don't generally hunt at night. They're crepuscular, which means they're more active during the sort of sunrise, sunset times. However, during the night of full moon, they are known to hunt at night. When there's enough ambient light around, you will see wild dogs hunting at night in specific areas. However, generally speaking, they normally go to sleep at night time, huddled together, and avoid all sorts of other nocturnal predators out there. And their hunting ranges are said to be huge. I was asked about territories earlier, but when you actually look at a wild dog's hunting range, it can be anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000 kilometres squared. And that's because they're not territorial and they hunt by coursing. They've got to outrun their prey. So they've got huge ranges that they cover. And they communicate a lot, but during the hunt, they're normally silent. Stealthy, and it's quick. Theo mentioned the other day that he found the wild dogs hunting quite disturbing, but the good thing about wild dog hunt is it's quick. It's over very, very fast, and before you know it, the prey species is gone.
How beautiful is the light on these zebras and impalas. It's just an epic scene. We were driving down into a more open area from where we were spending quite a bit of our time this morning and the day after, just to be surprised by quite a few zebras. And then, of course, look at all the impalas. You'll notice all of them have horns on it. So it's quite a big herd of bachelors. So all the males have been kicked out, and instead of being by themselves, they've joined up because of safety and numbers, and also being with those zebra. But I just wanted to point out the light, because with that you can actually look at all the different features, especially on the impalas. You'll notice that very dark brown back, lighter brown color on the side, and then that white belly. Look at this one with the black at the tip of the ears, and you can even see the ridges in the horns, and especially towards the end of the horn, you might notice how smooth and worn down they are, probably from as they were rubbing up against bushes, or maybe even against the side of a tree. But in a very good condition. Look at that belly, quite bulged. If you look at the side and the back quarters, even this time of the year, normally animals do lose quite a bit of condition, but they are in a pretty pristine condition, these impala rams. Now, there's another interesting thing to point out. So where the zebras are, just left of where where we see these impala, there are two black birds that just flew. You'll see that zebra right in the middle there. At the top, there's a black bird called the fork-tailed drongo. So basically, that bird feeds off insects. It's waiting for these zebra and impala to disturb the grass, and hopefully, by doing that, they'll be able to spot an insect and go and catch it. Sophie, I'm not too sure why a horse will have a longer mane in comparison to that of a zebra. I'm just honestly, what I'll try and do is try and actually find out a little bit more about it. But I do know that the fat reserves under the zebra's neck is what enables it to stand up like that. But otherwise, I'm not too sure. But I'll definitely try and find out why horses will have longer manes in comparison to that of zebra. Because if you look at the zebra's mane, it doesn't really look like the mane gets that long. In comparison to some horses, if you leave them, the mane can get pretty long. But definitely my all-time favorite animal, the zebra. And why is if you look at the neck, do you see how the stripes run from the neck into the mane? And even that zebra at the back, notice how that one dark stripe right in the middle of the neck, as it goes up towards the mane, you can see it actually splits into two, and then there's a white stripe all the way through. And every single zebra has a different stripe pattern. Even look at the one at the back. If you look at the rump, notice that there's there's a few of the darker bands across, and then suddenly there's a band that's fused together. Looks like the letter K on the back of that zebra. But such a beautiful sighting, and just such a lovely time in the afternoon to watch these animals, especially in this light.
Madness, everybody's awake, playing, greeting, squealing, yelping. Oh, I've got some lovely interactions, and the smell is awful, everyone. I cannot even begin to detail the smell. It's horrendous. They're marking. It's toilet time. Soon, they're going to hunt. Are they going to go north, south, east, or west? I do not know. But everybody's awake, greeting one another, happy to see one another, checking that everybody's here. I always say out of all the predators, and I think I'm the only person that feels this way, wild dogs smell the worst. Daniel, wild dogs do let off a sort of bark, but I don't feel it's entirely similar to domestic dogs. They have a range of vocalizations, and I think the most famous one is the whoo, whoo, whoo. I'm so good at that. I need to be careful they don't think I'm part of the pack. And that's probably the most iconic wild dog noise. But yes, they do make a sort of barking sound as well. And they're very, very vocal. It helps them communicate within the pack. But to me, it doesn't sound like domestic dogs. Okay, Camless has... Everybody's settled once again. So this was an elaborate greeting ceremony. There was sniffing, there was licking, there was twittering. Not squittering, that's a hyena word. Tail wagging, sniffing. It was just happiness all round there. Slightly different from a hyena greeting ceremony, shall we say. That's definitely a unique way of greeting your clan members for sure. Now the hoo, hoo, hoo can actually be heard up to 4 kilometers away. Can you believe that? Julia, you're asking when do the puppies start joining the hunt? They're actually very much travelling with the adults now. The denning period is completely over, so they'll travel with the pack, which means you won't find them in sort of the same place every single night anymore. They're no longer restricted. And they will start joining in now, but not necessarily taking prey down at this stage, but they will eat the kill. And of course, the adults will still regurgitate for them, but they're not quite joining in. I think they need to get a little bit older before they're absolutely able to sort of chase after prey and disembowel them. I think in a few months' time, they'll be able to do that. They're grown remarkably fast. But they are born altricial. And that's why they're stashed away in a den site, normally a termite mound or an aardvark burrow, just so that they can develop a little bit before being shown to the world, as with most predators. Hyenas are the ones that are remarkably precocial. Okay, I think everybody, we've not got the best positioning here. But there's other vehicles in the sighting. We may try to maybe reverse and get a better view of everybody, because as soon as this pack stands up, my goodness, it will be mayhem. Oh, right on cue. There's actually one pup with part of his tail missing, which is interesting. That'll be a key identification feature for the future. So I'm going to reposition now for a better view.
Alrighty guys, so we followed that female tracks until we believe we came to what was her previous den site. She might have moved the cubs, but then interestingly enough, she actually linked up with the other pride members and the other cubs as well. So those 4-month-old cubs that we've been following, they have been moving in this direction. It would seem like they might have made a kill, because we could see where they pushed or left the cubs at one stage, and then they went out, and then actually we started picking up on the cub tracks a little later on again. So we're just gonna keep following these tracks and see where they lead. But I believe we're fairly close. I mean, these Kalahari lions, they can move quite fast, so it's difficult to say we're 5 minutes away or we're 20 minutes away. But the tracks are looking good, and the fact that they went back and got the cubs, and now also we're picking up the cub tracks again, is very positive. So we're hopeful that there's going to be a kill here somewhere, and that we might be able to pick them up and show you guys, even if we're close to finishing the kill. Okay, so Thunder Knuckle had a question. What time do most animals prepare to sleep? The funny thing is when they want to. So there's no real set time for any animal to sleep. Typically for the cats, you'll find them resting and sleeping during the middle of the day, because that's when it's quite warm. Let me switch off the car for you guys. That's when it's quite warm. So for them to be moving at that time is very energy sapping for them. Also at nighttime, for them to be active at those times, it's cooler, so they use less energy. Also, they can use the cover of darkness to to their advantage having that great night vision. But then, when you go to the herbivores, and also, remember now, cheetah is also a cat, and they prefer sleeping at night, just because they need to be active during daytime again. But same for all the predators, they'll prefer being sleeping or resting during the middle of the day. Herbivores are whenever they want to. There's no real set time.
Have a look at this beautiful scene. We've just stopped at this one waterhole where we can actually look down towards a herd of elephants coming down to drink. You can see that one that's moving in. It has already had a drink. If you look at the color of the trunk, you'll see the very front tip, and there's a darker color in comparison to the rest of the trunk. So early on it probably had a drink, but might not be any other water around for the next little while. So they might take a bit more time to drink as much as they possibly can before they start heading off again. Look at that little one, just right in the middle there.
Coffee?
Sometimes just being able to sit like this and watch a herd of elephants is just incredible. Juliet 10, I'm going to try and describe my absolute best. Now, if you look at that elephant right in front of us, see the one that's in the water with the front feet. Now, if you look at the eye, follow the eye back towards the ear, but you can't look behind the ear, it's in front of the ear. So between her eye and her ear, slightly above, you'll notice there's a hole, and that's where the holes are in the ears. So it's not behind the ears. Now, another example to use is, if you look at her back, you see that hump. Every time she lifts her head, you'll see there's a hump just behind her ears. Now, just past that, on the other elephant, you'll notice there's a hole in front of the ears, and that's the holes in the ears of the elephants. Yeah, and I'm not too sure. I can imagine that an elephant, probably all depending on how clear the water would be if they are under the water, but I'm not too sure. I don't think I've ever been that observant to have a look at that. But I would love to know from our viewers, if anyone knows, or if anyone is watching that has seen it before or heard about it before. But I can imagine that, especially with elephants, having considered those long eyelashes, that maybe there's a chance that they might close their eyes when they're under the water, but just not too sure.
Back with our beautiful, we just found this little creature here, the dwarf mongoose in that hole. But as you can see in this tiny hole, in this little mound, just the nostrils sticking out. You can see that this dark eye, but also a little bit of its head. There's quite a few of them here. So there are dwarf mongoose, guys, and they are day animal hunter. So they forage during the day. At night, they will be sleeping in one of these older mounds. Quite a few, look at them. Looks like this is going to be a chosen spot for them for the night. But they also don't sleep. They don't use one mound for 2 days, 3 days. If it happens, it does. But then they switch mound. And you find them here tomorrow, they will be sleeping somewhere else. This is caused by the way they do. They need to forage. They need to go feed. And they maintain such a huge territory, these guys. And they're well known of killing snake. They actually do a lot of fight with the snake. As a team, they finally win a snake. probably feed on small snake. If they kill big snake, look at this, they also eat at them. They also have a relationship with the hornbill bird, often, which I don't see any here. So what the relationship works with them between these two is that the bird would sit on small trees but also observe around for danger in terms of eagles or any of things that flies up in the air trying to hunt these guys while they are in tall grasses. And then it's for the bird to give an alarm call, specific alarm call, and they will be all concentrating on such a call. So I'm just gonna wait to see if maybe many of them will arrive in this mound.
So we're back at Phinda here. Amazing to see. Sometimes the best sightings are actually those small little creatures that you see, such as the dwarf mongoose you were just looking at. It's actually always enjoyable to sit and watch the small things, and it's those things that really sort of make the whole picture as beautiful as it is when you're out in the bush. You know, the senses, the smells, the feels, and all the little animals and birds that make it into Africa. So Wolverine, these buffalo here, while they are related, there are quite a few distinct differences. You know, there's a few type of major categories where we class animals, and one of them is ungulates, which means hoofed animals, and those are the first way we classify different types of animals is actually based on their feet. So anything that's got a hoof is part of the ungulate family, and those are all closely related. And then you get, you know, your predators, which have, of course, their paws, and they're more closely related. So that is the first way we actually classify animals. And then you start to go down and look at other similarities, you know, behavior, genes, feeding patterns, and so on. We are looking now at the Cape buffalo, whereas the ones you're talking about are the water buffalo. And yes, like you say, they are related, but there are quite a few distinct differences. You know, the size is quite a bit different. Ours are a bit bigger. Also, the behavior in terms of how they respond to humans is also very different. You know, the water buffalo, I've been told, I've never seen one myself, but I've been told that they are actually quite relaxed. And, you know, a herd such as this is generally, you know, fantastic to view, always from the safety of your vehicle. But the buffalo bulls are one of those notorious animals that you do sort of watch out when you're on foot for. So it's quite a picturesque scene. Now, Donkey, the weight of a buffalo horn, that does vary quite massively. In fact, if you just have a look at this herd, you can already see massive differences in the size of the horns. You know, the bulls themselves, they'll have much bigger ones. The females, quite a bit smaller. In fact, you can see that one right in the middle. The way to tell the difference is the big cask. So that, of course, adds a bit of weight. Now, I might be mistaken, but I do sort of remember someone auctioning a massive buffalo off, but I think it was more the length of the horn than the actual weight of the horn that they looked at. As I say, it can vary quite distinctly. Now, as we are watching them, you see how they are coming slowly closer to us. It is sort of, as it's getting a bit cooler, they're starting to feed again. You know, earlier they were lying down. You can see there's, just behind them, there's sort of a riverine. where it's quite thick there. They might have had the chance to rest up and sit in the shade, and now it's cooler and they're starting to feed. So Sergio, the nutritional value, in fact, of this particular grass is quite high. There are a few different types of grass that they are feeding on here. There's one distinctive one. It's actually in front of me. You can see the more reddy tinge, and that is called red grass. And that is one of our highest grazing values that we actually have here on Phinda. Now, the fact that it's dry does decrease the nutritional value. You know, what they're really trying to do is they're trying to rip up as close to the ground as possible where there are more nutrients. There's a bit more water there, so those ones closer to the ground, it has a bit more nutrients. Obviously, there's still a bit of nutritional value in throughout the grass in general. Closer to the ground will be more nutrient dense, and the roots and things that come out, they might get a bit of that, and that will also have a bit of nutritional value. But it was a really outstanding question actually about the grass, because that will always give us indications of sort of what, where and how to look for animals. Like you say, you know, what about the nutritional value of this one? It's quite high as far as the general area goes. And that's why we are seeing buffalo. We saw rhino earlier. You know, we've been seeing our zebra, our wildebeest, all of which are going to rely on the nutrients in these grasses. So the grass is actually the first thing you often look for when you are trying to find animals such as buffalo. Now, this one directly in front of us, we were talking earlier about giraffe, and you know, and how we had this one gorgeous little giraffe, had a beautiful coat, and she had, you know, no sort of scars or anything. Now, if you have a look at this buffalo, so she's actually got her tongue out, she's licking that bush right in front of us, and you can see there's a massive patch on her. That's where she's lost her fur. And if you look at the distinctive place where she's starting to lose it, it is from the top down. And it is actually a sign of aging. You know, there's all these urban myths that go around that saying buffalo lose their fur from rolling in mud, and when they finish their mud wallow, they actually go and rub it off on a tree, and that takes the fur off. It's not very true. Now you can see with her how she's got a huge amount right on the top. It's the last kind of place she'll get mud, and certainly won't be that sort of rubbing pattern. That's just an old age thing, and one of those urban myths that we can bust. I think what we would do is we might hang around here, because this is the area where a male lion was last seen, in the drainage line off to my left. So we're going to see, hopefully, this buffalo heading in that direction, and maybe we can see if the male lion's still around, if he hasn't moved off yet.
The adults are up, but the puppies are all staying together. So I'm not sure if the adults are getting ready to hunt without them. But don't worry, the adults are still here. They're just behind us. It's now 5 p.m. It's perfect sunset time. Oh, look at that.
Whilst I'm crossing into touch water.
Playtime. Play is important in any organism, not just for development, but for fun. Enlightenment, the alpha is actually collared in this pack. That's how I know immediately. But you wouldn't really know immediately otherwise. Now, this pack is easy, as I mentioned, but otherwise you would have to identify them individually, which is slightly tricky. I find wild dogs very tricky. There's some incredible people out there, like James Richard, who can identify them immediately, but you have to pick out key identification features, as you do with sort of any of the animals out here, including lions and leopards. You have to be able to pick out key sort of markings. But one way is that the alpha pair are the ones that sort of urine mark, when you see a male and female urine marking, you will know that you've got the alpha male and female right there. But otherwise, it's very, very tricky. They do just look like the rest of the dogs, unless they're collared, of course. And due to the alpha male being in complete control, just like dwarf mongoose, just like the grey wolf, there's very little aggression. Lulubelle, I think they were around 13, 14 weeks. When I first saw them, they were 10 weeks, and that was about 3 weeks ago. So I think they were around 13, pushing on 14 weeks. So they're over 3 months, so they're reaching 3 months, and they're definitely moving with the pack now. They may even start to run when the adults are running, but they can get separated. It's very common for puppies to actually get separated when the pack are hunting. And they will sort of find each other through vocalizations and scent. Because they hunt in such a frantic way, it's very common for adults to even get separated, but they will always sort of regroup. But a puppy that size will not be able to take down a large item of prey. They're far too young. But it's the process. Oh, they're all on this side now, BK. Where are you all off to? There must be a little leader there that's encouraging them to head that way. But in all fairness, the adults are just behind this mound. But yes, it's a process. It's a process from being left in a den to then being allowed to travel with the pack, to then being allowed to sort of travel when the pack are hunting, to then feed on your own rather than from regurgitation, and then to start joining in hunts. It's a process for animals like this. There's the adults there. Oh, the smell. Angie, my goodness, you're throwing me under the bus here. Honestly, in my sense of smell, which is a bit bizarre, wild dogs are the worst. It's a very urine, acidic smell. It's stale urine, and I find that difficult with my nasal passages, whereas hyenas are just a bit stinky in general, like a bit gassy. I'm not entirely sure BK will agree with me. Hyenas are worse. Oh, BK said hyenas are worse. I'm sure many people will say that. It depends if a hyena's been on a carcass, but I just find the really strong urine smell of wild dogs repulsive. But that's no reflection on them. I absolutely love these animals. My nose just finds them a bit too strong. I've found wild dog packs twice now through my nose alone. The smell is so strong that I know the area they're in, and I can actually find them just from using my nose, not sight or sound. And that's how strong the smell is. Now we'll reposition in just a bit. I just need to make sure that there's no stragglers left behind. You never want to separate a pack. So I'm going to scan around here and hopefully reposition soon.
Beautiful. You know, dogs, terrible smell. I mean, well, animals, they smell sometimes, but also smell this morning. But also with these mongoose, sometimes they can, but not bad as the wild dogs or a beautiful mongoose. See how they're staring at us. It's like, what are you talking about? We don't smell. Look at his eyes. Look at the nostrils. Darcy, I agree with you. They're so gorgeous with these little ears, you know. Look at we just zoom in there so you can see, able to see little marked claw they got. This is how they actually very good hunter. They dig around for, a scorpion, dig around for spiders, dig around anything they find. So they're smallest carnivores around here. So kill lizards, they will crunch on beetles, grasshoppers, and then of course, this is how they do. They operate as a team, but they communicate. They kind of like, look at this, looks like a guitar playing, how they scratch. Now, something they're not too sure about that. And that's why one run, all of them, they will be, always interested on running into hide for safety. Remember, they don't have the bird I was, talking about, that hornbill. When they have a hornbill, they trust too much that they don't have to look around too much because hornbill can help them look out. And the benefit, I was trying to explain that. So the benefit they give back to that bird is these guys, as they forage through grasses, disturbed flies, disturbed insect, and the bird fly catches it. For a return, they give life to this animal because of spotting eagles from the air. It looks like they want to settle down here. I'm going to take one more time look at them before we leave them.
So here at Pride Land, we have this beautiful Steenbok male. You can see he's busy feeding and watching, looking at us and listening to what we're doing. You can see now, very, very alert. For the size of the buck, you would think maybe this is a small one. And the answer is no, it's actually this an adult. So the male carries straight horns, and the female don't carry any horns. Now I can hear the background. There's some lapwings calling. So unlike impala, the buffalo that we saw living in a big herd, this little champ, both male and female, they live on their own, so very solitary animals. You actually find them two or more if it's a mating pair or it's a female. Oh, look at that. That's so cute. That's so cute, guys. I've never seen... Yes. I've never seen a Steenbok so chilled like, this one here. Normally when you see these guys, they just storm away from you. Oh man, that's so cute. We're also watching you. He's busy, staring at us. So yeah, I was just finishing my thought. So these guys who stay on their own, and then you see a pair if it's time for them to mate, or you see mom and a youngster. And then otherwise, most of the time they spend on their own. This sort of a very perfect spot for them, up on top of the crest of the cantina, where it's quite open, so they can see more what's around, and filled with some nice acacia trees, and tubes that they feed on, and forbs. And also nice grass. He was just foraging just now, not so long ago. I really like how he's resting and positioning his ears towards our direction. Maybe he's probably listening to me now. Oh dude, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? It's so cute, eh? It's so cute. Yes, he feels so comfortable. He feels so comfortable around us, it seems. But we're also in quite a very long range distance from this Steenbok. So we're not too close. He's comfortable. So when we got here, I was busy feeding, and now he decided that, you know what? It's enough for today. I'm just gonna lie down and rest. But also in his resting tune, you can see he's still alert, which I find very, very, very amazing. Situational awareness is still on top notch. I like the origin of the name Steenbok. So Steenbok, it's Steenbok. It's actually an Afrikaans word. There's something behind it. There's something behind it. Maybe that's probably his female. Can you see, guys? Just right there. Oh, nice. This is nice. A little family here of Steenbok. I just have to check if the one that now if it has horns or not. But I think that will probably be a female, because two male in one place, it won't work. They don't. They normally don't tolerate each other, and it's more of like fighting. Oh, this is so nice. This could mean something that maybe in the next few months we could have maybe Steenbok babies. Okay, I'm just gonna chill here and see if the female comes close, and keep on like looking or watching on these open plates.
It's just playtime here. Just happiness all around. I'm gonna just let you all enjoy this for a few moments. Shelley, absolutely, you're correct. When the adults go hunting and they choose to leave the puppies, at least when they're at a den site, there's always a babysitter, if you like, a guard. Whatever you want to call it, there will always be one at the den site. And normally, when the puppies are this age, the adults don't have to stay. Now, what's happening right now is all the adults are off. They're in hunting mode. They're going right into that drainage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the puppies are left behind. Let's just do a quick count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh my goodness. Hello, you guys. Oh. I can see some ears flicking in the background. I'm not sure if it's an adult or a pup, but I've counted at least 10, and as I mentioned earlier, there should be 11. So when they're this age, no, Shelley, they don't always need a babysitter because they're much older, but when they are refined to sort of the den site area, yes, there's always a guard. But they're very small. Really, they would not be able to defend themselves if any sort of predator came along. Next, 100% social animals. 100%. The most social, well, at least the most socially structured of all the carnivores. Life is the pack and the pack is life. They cannot live without their pack, or they can. I just gave the example of solo earlier, but they're heavily, heavily dependent on the pack. And I touched on earlier, it's almost altruistic how wild dogs are with their pack. It's really, really important, and it's controlled by the alpha pair, if you like, the only breeding pair. Now, the beta pair, the next in line, are sometimes said to breed. And sort of in textbooks you will read that they're often killed. Those puppies are often killed by the alpha pair, but not always. Sometimes they're adopted. I think it really does depend on the situation, but generally speaking, the beta pair don't breed, but it occasionally happens. And this answers one of the main questions about wild dogs. How on earth do they suppress their subordinates? How does the alpha pair ensure that no one else breeds? Because it's a biological urge to mate. The male will want to mate with the female will want to mate with the male. So reproductive suppression is fascinating in wild dogs. I imagine they're all fertile, so what is it that's causing the others not to breed? And although there's lots of gaps in our knowledge when it comes to this, the sort of main result that scientists came up with is that it's at a behavioral level. So something to do with the behavior of the alpha pair that suppresses the other adults into not breeding. So the alpha pair reproduce seasonally and they're monoestrous. So something in their behavior ensures the other adults don't breed. But there's still lots of science sort of looking into secondary effects. It could possibly be hormone-induced or even pheromone-induced. I think it's quite likely pheromone-induced. When the alpha pair urine mark, there's pheromones in urine, and that will sort of send chemical signals to the other dogs that somehow will relate to their brain that they're not to mate. But the fact that the beta pair can mate tells you immediately that it can't be at a biological level. It has to be at a behavioral level. Isn't that incredible? BK's doing an incredible job here keeping up with all these puppies. The adults are just behind us, don't worry. I wouldn't stay with the puppies. They're getting ready to hunt, but they're not quite hunting yet, so don't worry. The adults are still here. The minute they completely disappear, we probably will leave the pups. Oh my goodness. No wonder there's babysitters. It must be exhausting looking after this lot. So we're going to sit here as long as we can, as long as there's an adult.
To a beautiful creature's dwarf mongoose, and looks like it's the only one that is visible now. I think that one's trying to make sure that now it's actually last look, because the sun now is going down, and then also it's going to disappear into that hole. There's another one there, but you can see how they're not actually out anymore, just because this is one of the mound that they have chosen. Sassy Cassie. So they have a great visual or sense of eyesight during the day, of course, and then because of for them being busy foraging through these grasses, then one has to be either look out, but communication is there when that lookout one spot any dangers. It's going to be alarm call for them to respond quickly, go to hide. But at night, no, our sighting is not good. So that's why they won't move around at night. Look how active this is. Look at the nostrils, that's amazing. So they have how they communicate. They usually in the packs, they groom one another. So for them, this is how they were able to recognize one another through their saliva when they do that, whole packs. But also this is how they will separate from one another through that kind of saliva they give one another when they do groom. But the other communication, it's the anal gland they have. This is when they scent mark their boundaries, because they're also smallest territorial animal. Looks that one disappear forever now. I don't know, probably come back, but the sun now is disappearing, so it's coming back, having a look. So that anal gland, what it does is they move as they go. These grasses around, short grasses, they walk over it or climb backwards and then secrete this gland attached to the grasses. For those are behind, able to read the scent message, what is left behind. And for those are not at this, among this group also, to be able to know this area, it's another group of mongoose. But it's been seen that two different groups been joined, but also separate away. This is what the overlap of their boundaries mean for them. But it works pretty much on this animal where you have alpha male and alpha female to breed, and the rest of the female and the young males or other males, they are babysitters. These are the ones sit with these babies, clean them, while the alpha male and alpha female went for a hunt. Come back. So the parents spend a short time than the babysitters. They only come and check on them, give them a little bit of a milk, and they move on back to hunt again if this young one unable to follow them. The cow checking out. Where lifespan is about at least 6 years, 7 years. Only weigh about 300 grams, so it's a small thing. And gestation period 63 days. And young 2 to 4 are born in a barrow, just like this hole that we're looking at. But seeing them digging around for their own food for the day, they play pretty much important role on, if they're ever around your garden, then you wouldn't mind about the crickets destroying your garden, but you only worry about the hole these guys will make. Because then every time they realize there's a lot of crickets in your garden, they always visit. And sometimes they can be a little kind of a tame, not really tame, but they got close to human when you realize it's not a threat every time they're there. It's not that you cannot pet them. And they kind of some area are seasonal breeder, which breeding season occurs from, October, May there. Shelly, who's closer related to the mongoose? So I know somewhere else they have a meerkat, if you would remember that, and different kind of looking animal, but they slightly closer related to those. And of course, it's quite a lot of mongoose, including those mongoose that are solitary, as well as a black tip and tail. One of the slender mongoose we find around here. So this is what they're close related to. But again, due to that, they have an anal gland. Because all mongoose, I'm not sure with the meerkats, I have to check that if they also have that. But also, it will refer to our hyena would also have an anal gland, but they're not there. They're not actually close related to hyena, anything like that. Look at this one, it's nostrils. Guide monkey. So these are a little smaller thing. I don't think they will stand against the meerkats at all. Meerkats are slightly bigger in size. So, and they don't occur around here. But I don't think wherever they are, if they have these guys, then I don't think there's any competition in terms of, battling for a probably place of a sleep. Somebody has to get out immediately that there's a fight taking place. That I don't really think so. They're a lot smaller animal. And they don't really fight a lot against the other different species. All they do is that they check for their own safety. We leave them here, so it's getting dark. Just gonna leave them in peace, this creature.
So yeah, guys, that's one thing that I do miss about the Lowveld, seeing those little dwarf monkeys. But we've got the meerkats over here, so it makes up for it. But what we're looking at right now, just an update on the lions, by the way. They are playing with us. We are following the tracks and they're just messing with our heads, honestly. But really beautiful setting over here. You can see there's a couple of springbok, there's some oryx, and just behind the bushes there's some blue wildebeest as well. And you'll quite often find the herbivores doing that, sticking together, even though all three of these are currently busy feeding on grass. They either feed on different levels of the grass, so as to avoid competition, or they just don't care about sharing their grass with another species at the moment, because sticking together, having more eyes and ears looking out for predators, especially while we are busy tracking lions in this particular area, is much more advantageous to them to be together and have like an early warning system. So you'll often find them doing that. I believe you guys have been looking at some blue wildebeest and topi in the Mara. You'll see they also stick together, and it doesn't necessarily mean when I say this that it needs to be more than one species. You can just find a whole lot of animals sticking together, even if it's from the same species. There's always an advantage to that. But in this particular point, or in this particular instance, with the blue wildebeest and the oryx or the gemsbok and the springbok all together, it makes for a very good combination of senses and, alarm systems, if you want to call it that, even though they feed on the same things. Don't get me wrong, the springbok are classified as mixed feeders, so they can also mix between grass and trees or shrubs, as well as the oryx or the gemsbok. Blue wildebeest not so much. However, if times are tough, you will find them doing that as well. I've even seen in the Lowveld now, I've seen a zebra eating an apple leaf tree. Now, just to get that into your head, an apple leaf tree is a very unpalatable tree. You very seldomly find even the browsers feeding on those leaves. And this zebra was just so desperate. It was about 4 or 5 years ago. In the midst of the drought, he was just so desperate that he went for that as well. But yeah, just lovely, concentrating on the lions the whole time. And then coming across this, it's just beautiful to be able to switch off the vehicle and just relax a little bit with these guys. And again, guys, I'm going to mention it. That mask on that oryx is just stunning. I love that black and white, almost like makeup that they've got on. It's really, really stunning. He's just posing for the camera at the moment. So Sinat just had a good question. Do gemsbok move in large herds at Tswalu? And yes, you do find them in rather large groups. You have to understand now that when we say large, we don't mean Masai Mara large or, buffalo herd in the Sabi Sands large. It's not going to be 1,000 individuals, but we do get herds as large as 30, 40, sometimes 50 individuals. So you do get that. As the season changes and the grass or the food gets lower and lower or less and less, you will find them almost splintering into smaller groups, just to not have as big of an effect and as much competition with one another. As the foliage goes down or as the grass goes down, it also gets easier to spot potential predators. So then having a couple members fewer in the group is not going to affect you that badly. But we do get the oryx forming rather large herds as far as Kalahari standards is concerned. I'd say the antelope that forms the biggest herds around here is probably the Cape Eland. And so they can, a couple of years ago, we actually had a group or a herd that was about 400 strong. Now, with the drought, they've fragmented it a little bit into smaller groups, but I'm pretty sure they're going to join up again as soon as it's rained and so on, and the grass has returned.
There's nothing better than watching the African sunset, and then on top of it all is having some lions between us and that beautiful sunset. So we came back to see what the pride might be up to, and you can see, because it is starting to cool down, some of them are getting a bit more restless. The mothers stood up and the two young cubs are just lying down near her feet. Imagine if she continues walking, then we're going to see those cubs following her. Oh. So earlier on today, there were other lions roaring behind us. So to give you an idea, where the sun is setting is west, so these lions are west of us. Now east, so from our direction or our angle from these lions behind us is where we heard lions roaring this morning. And it might be other members of the pride, including one of the other more dominant males that would eventually come and join up with the pride. But you never know if at some point tonight they are going to roar in order to find one another again. But look at that mom's face. See how she picked up her head, and look at how she's pricking her ears off in that direction. Now there is, it looks like an impala on the bank, and she's basically staring at that impala in the distance. Now, even though they have had a meal, they are opportunistic, and any opportunity they can get, they'll take it. But let's see, because that impala is still far away, might be that she's just staring, assessing the opportunity. But that young cub, he's I think he's more concerned of just being closer to mum, the other one, and having a drink. Now, left of where they are, currently lying down, there's a male. Now, he hasn't been with he has been with the pride, but he's just been lying around. Let's just see if this one's going to try and suckle. But just look left of where the whole pride is lying down. There's one of the dominant males. And he is so comfortable. Just look at how he's turned or angled himself onto that soft sand.
A hyena just entered the scene and the dogs are alert. Everybody wants the hyenas gone. I don't know who it was. I just got a brief visual. But everybody chased that poor hyena. Look at them. Little puppies in action. I still keep counting 10. I could easily be wrong. But the adults are still here. Please don't worry. And if it gets too dark, we'll leave. We don't view wild dogs in the dark, even though we've got infrared. We normally leave them, but the sun's still up. It's not set yet. We've got enough time. BK, I'm just going to go forward for you, I think. Let's quickly reposition. You see the sun in the background there? I think this is the longest and easiest sighting of wild dogs I have ever had. Oh, look at that. Puppies in the sunset. Oh, they're all running. The wild dogs were really not scared of that hyena, not when they're in the pack. Listen. When they've got all the sort of numbers around them, a hyena is nothing. But if a wild dog was on his own, that's when you would find there would be trouble.
Welcome back, and boy, do we have a treat for you. Hear that you have been seeing the most amazing things in Djuma, and we've been lucky enough to have one of the other rangers actually locate this male lion. I think it might be the same one that we were talking about a little bit earlier, and I wish I could actually show you this whole scene because it is something out of The Lion King. We are sitting on top of one of the tallest rocky outcrops that Phinda has, overlooking the vast majority of Phinda, and we have in front of us one of the territorial male lions of the south of the reserve. And as you can see, he's giving us quite a show. You know, his head is up, he's been yawning, he's now grooming, and those are all signs that he's about to get up and he's about to start moving. Oh, here we go, another big yawn. Yes, that is just an unbelievably beautiful lion. If we look right onto his nose, you'll see he's got a few battle wounds, but isn't badly scarred yet. There's actually, just behind his ear, as I'm saying this, I'm now seeing quite a prominent wound behind his ear. You see that there's a prominent cut, almost as if something got him right from behind on the neck. And, you know, something attacking a male lion like that, wounding it like that, I would assume it most likely is from his brother. You know, they might have had a bit of a brawl together. You know, the one time that they really will fight is when a lioness has gone into estrus and they both want to mate with her, and that's something they'll fight over. They'll also fight over food, but more often over mating rights. There's always a chance that injuries like that can come from a hunt, but you know, just the position, if you look right at the back behind the ears, you can imagine how difficult it would be for an animal to actually get the lion in that kind of sort of area. As typically what they do is they'll try and jump on the back of these animals, and then, you know, a male lion like this weighing about 250 kilograms will then use his muscle and his weight to try and pull it off its feet, and then they go in for the throat. So the back of the head is very seldom exposed in that sort of hunting technique. He's having a bit of a sneeze. And we've just seen how they groom themselves, and it's quite interesting to know that lions, just like our domestic cats at home, also have the occasional hairball and furball, which is, you know, when they cough it up, it sounds something a little bit more intense than that. So Finak, with the the dominance between males, they do indeed fight. Now, what they do is that a male will hold a territory. Now, they either have a coalition. For instance, this male is in a coalition of two males, and that's often with a sibling. So if they come from a pride where there's a few younger males, often born in the same litter, then they will generally grow up, and those bonds will stay together for life. And then they take over a territory together once they become big enough. You're looking about when they're about 4, they'll start taking over territories. And then they hold that territory together. They will occasionally fight, as I mentioned earlier, amongst themselves. And there is definitely a more dominant male out of them, which will have, the mating rights and sort of a bit of preference when it comes to feeding as well. And that can change, but not as often as one would expect amongst the coalition. Then the other instance is when new males come into a territory. Now, they can do that for a number of reasons. Perhaps the feeding is actually a little bit better, or, there's other lionesses that they want to mate with, increase their pride. There's actually a alarm call. You can actually see how his attention's drawn. Animals do respond to other animals' alarm calling because they know it often means, for in this male lion's case, potential free meal. Much easier to chase off a leopard or a cheetah on a kill than it is to kill something by himself. But back to the dominance, that's when they'll come into an area, and it's very interesting about these male lions is that they try and form larger coalitions. I've heard of a coalition up to 6 male lions. That's not very often genetically possible. That might be including other males, nomadic males that have walked into the area that do not have their own territory, and sort of joining into a coalition of another male to give them the upper hand and take over that territory. So what we're going to do, we're going to stick with this male and see what he does, and also keep our eyes out and see what happens with those alarm calls and what is causing that.
Hey, no. Awesome. So earlier on, we had buffalo just right here to one of my favorite dam at Pride Lands Eco Training Camp. We have that's black bird there. It's a red-billed buffalo weaver. Okay, so you can see that red beak, black uniformed, with a little bit of whitish on the bird. We're losing light as well. We just had a very, very beautiful sunset going down now. We're just waiting here, and then these birds grabs our attention. So I'm sure if you look nicely, there are big clumps of it looks like someone collected sticks right there. So that's a nest of these birds. They actually live in a very big colony. So now they're just making some few contact call, also calling each other, matter of going in. Actually, if you are lost in the bush and you want to find your barriers, you can also, this one of the natural feature or factor that you can use to navigate using this guy's nest. Most of the time, they are situated between west and north. So if you can maybe get more than one example, and in this case specifically, the theory works quite well. So if you look where the bird is, and there's the side that's north west, more or less direction. So you can look on this nest, and then it should more or less give you an idea where's your south, where's your north, it's very, very much important as well. It's part of what we teach students here at Eco Training. As a guide, you need to know where you are, and when you're lost, how to find your barriers. And the red-billed buffalo weaver nest just work out very perfectly.
So we've gone into infrared and we just focused on this little cub. Now if you notice around the mouth, you'll notice there's a dark patch, and that's because earlier on it was suckling on mom. So see, mom is just in the back, and you'll see around her belly, like her, where the cubs have been suckling. Now there were some francolins that were alarm calling behind us. Now as I said, maybe the other members of the pride are behind us, and eventually they'll come and join up with the rest of the pride. So the more time we spend here, the more likely we can see some good interaction amongst the pride, if it happens within the next couple of minutes. But otherwise, you never know what's going to happen with these lions, especially during the evening until tomorrow morning. Most of them are so full. Look at that one at the back with its leg up in the air, just so it's so that it's easier to lie down in the sand and more comfortable. I'm trying to see if I can see the other cub, and he might just be lying down behind the mom. But look at this young male here, how that head is. It's almost moved, like pushed into the sand to make it more comfortable. Kruger, I don't know if I'll be able to get the little ones to roar, but if the pride had to start roaring, the chances are good that they will want to contribute. Now, a few weeks ago we had the pride roaring, and as soon as they started roaring, the cubs joined in. But of course, all the other ones were quite a deep, guttural sound that was coming out of their mouths. But with the little ones, it was this very delicate, like "arr, arr," almost like a moan, as they were trying to contribute and also lift their voices within the pride. Renelle, it all depends on where the lions occur, as well as how many there are together within that pride, as well as the resources that are available. Now, to give you an idea, the average lifespan, especially of males, if they are lucky, would be anywhere from 10 to 12 years. For females, they will average around about 14 years in the wild, but it all depends. I mean, if the area is abundant with food, water, and the pride doesn't have to move too far, the lions could possibly get up to 16, maybe 17 years. Whereas if it's a very hard terrain where the food and water is scarce and the pride has to move quite a bit, if any of the older ones start falling behind, there's no way that the pride will eventually go and kill and then come back and fetch that particular lion. They will wait as long as they possibly can, but normally, depending on the size of the pride and also the amount of resource available, and if there's any injury or the type of prey that they'll be able to hunt in that area, there's a lot of factors that will contribute to that, but that will normally be the average lifespan.
Thanks, Nikki, for that. From sleeping lions to one very wide awake lion, as you can see, this male is staring quite intently in that direction that we heard those alarm calls. They've been pretty consistent, and we were wondering if perhaps it's a residential leopard, or even there was a pride of lions that was found there a little bit earlier. They did have a kudu kill, so it's unlikely that they've already finished it, but it is quite a massive pride, so you never know how quickly they managed to finish that off. It is interesting to show just how animals do tend to respond to all the alarm calls and different sounds in the bush. can see his ears are picked right forward. He's even adjusted his whole seating to be in the direction facing down that hill into that valley, right towards where those alarm calls were coming from. And what he's doing now is he's just staying still and having a little scan to see what's happening. You know, on the one hand, like we said earlier, if it is something that's potentially hunting and he manages to steal that kill, it's much, much easier for him to do that and a lot less energy. You know, being the complete top of the food chain in the African wild, male lions don't have to worry about trying to steal the kill away from anything other than probably another male lion. On the other hand, if he does see a cheetah or a leopard, he might actually even go down and decide to try and attack them, because they do pose threats to any of his present or future cubs. And that is why there's always such a battle between the different predators. Oh, look, he's getting up. Amazing. I wonder if he's actually going to go towards the edge of this rocky outcrop. You can see just a little hint of how high we are up from the corner of the screen there. That is just the most unbelievable sighting. Like I said when we started, something out of the Lion King. And he is up for the evening. He's going to go and start patrolling his territory, or maybe even go and investigate those alarm calls. And we're going to slowly follow him and see what he's up to, and hopefully tomorrow we can catch up and see what he got up to for the evening.
It'd be so amazing to follow that male lion and see how and where is he going that evening. Is he going to mark his territory? Is he going to start roaring later on? But what I do know from these lions is they're not going to be heading anywhere pretty soon. Now, just judging by the behavior, full belly, and also the nearest water from here is not too far. So eventually, as soon as it cools down enough, they'll probably just get up and start moving. From now, this time going forward, there's a good chance. Now, that male has just rolled onto his back. The one that we mentioned that was slightly away from the pride. And the belly was so big, as it was rolling around, it looked like the belly was like moving only afterwards. But he is very, very comfortable. Now, if we take, I just want to show you the example. If we take the infrared off, look at how well that lion blends in to the grass in the back. So we're going to give it a go. You can see it's hard to, you'll notice that little red shine on the mane resembles that glow on the sand, and the rest of his body with that grass in the back. But notice with the grass as well, we had some rain recently, and you'll notice little strands of green grass coming out. So hopefully we'll get some more rain and start greening up quite a bit. But we're going to go back into infrared and head back to where the rest of the pride is lying down. It looks like the young white male is now turning around towards that one cub. Might just be him trying to reposition. Monique, with these lions, so earlier on this morning and yesterday afternoon and into the evening, they made a kill on a buffalo. So by the time they were found this morning, they've already finished the buffalo carcass, and then came down towards this riverbed to lie down for the rest of the day. That's why all of them look like they probably would have swallowed a balloon. That's how big they are. And just imagine with all these lions, the amount of competition there would have been as soon as that buffalo was taken down, because you can imagine it's every lion for themselves. They never know when the next meal is going to be, so they need to eat as much as they possibly can. And hence the feet up in the air like we can see now. But what an incredible day, like the morning and the afternoon. We've been so lucky with all the animals seen across the different reserves. Very spoiled today. And who knows where these lions are going to end up during the evening. Maybe go have a drink. Might not even be too far away from here. But hopefully tomorrow we'll come and search for them and see where they would be. But to everyone, have a lovely day and hopefully see you on our morning safari.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include